Welcome to Galway, Glen.
Thanks, Olaf. Thank you.
Do you have many good memories of the city?
Oh, geez, yeah. I mean, I would have hitched here when I was 14 or 15 and come busking on Shop Street.
I remember you.
yeah. And Galway was always one of those cities that just had this whole other. It just had this kind of. It felt like the best parts of Grafton Street. Like in the summer in Dublin, there was a pocket, like South Ann Street, Grafton Street. There was like a pocket of energy or people doing things that we would have all really liked. But Galway just seemed to have it all over the city. And so we used to love coming down, and it was classic crashing on people's floors and going to the bar and just living life, sticking the head in on sessions. And then later on, Galway was that place you'd come to and of course play some gigs, and there was always talk of this venue in Salt Hill,
The Warwick?
not the Warwick, what's the other one, the Sea Point. Everybody, you hear about bands coming down of like the Water Boys playing at Sea Point,
Yeah.
and we'd all come down. And
Jack L played there last night, actually.
did he?
Yeah.
Oh. I've never, I couldn't tell you what it looks like now.
Same as.
Yeah,
exactly the same.
And then there was the Warwick, and a few years later there was a Warwick and David Gray playing the Warwick, and us coming down, and we opened for him there, and getting to meet him. Some of the Donald Deneen had been playing on No Disco, and he was kind of like this new character in Ireland, and everybody had really taken to him. So Galway's always been a great place to visit. I remember busking one night, probably 93 or 4, and making no money. And I remember the Loras from the Cranberries walking by, and they were huge at the time, and they were signed to the same label as us. And
Right.
it was just, I remember it being really tough, and her and one of the guys in the band, no harm to them, they didn't, but I remember just being like, fuck.
This was Island Records at the time.
Yeah. It was good. It was like, sometimes you appreciate a moment like that because it puts a fire under you and
Sure.
sort of it says get it together.
Yeah. Well, I know you busk at Christmas with Bono and
Yeah.
and co. But do you busk now? I mean, when you're on tour, would you go out in the street and just for a laugh?
Occasionally, I just did it in Toronto a couple of weeks ago. I was over there for a gig, and
That was the Joni Mitchell show, yeah?
Joni Mitchell, yeah.
Yeah.
And after the gig, a bunch of us went out and just played a couple of songs on the street. I love doing it because, you have to be careful with yourself as to why you're doing it. Sometimes it's great to go busking if you're just if it occurs to you.
Yeah.
But, you got to be careful that it's not a move.
Yeah.
Because if it is a move, then you're being dishonest with yourself. The audience know. It becomes a gag, So I like to do it away from gigs. So like I was in Venice during the summer and I went busking there, and I was there for the Biennale, and just, go out for an hour. It's not a big deal, and it's not for money. It's kind of some kind of personal reconnecting with what it is you do.
Yeah.
It's very easy for us to just to sort of decide that we've graduated beyond a certain point, but you're never far from just you and a guitar and the public.
Yeah.
Because essentially that's what we're doing. We're going on stage tonight in a tent with the public, with a bunch of public who've kind of be curious about, oh yeah, that's those people, and they'll come along, they see Damien, they see us, and see Dahi, and they go and they're curious about it. But essentially, it's the same thing. They're throwing some money in your hat, except this time they're doing it before you play.
It's a bigger hat.
It's a bigger hat, yeah, exactly.
Tell me a little bit about Rhythm and Repose, your solo album.
Well, it's been out a year now. It's a record I made in New York on a break. I took a break from touring with the Swell season. We had been going since 2006. We made once in 2005, and then the band, the Swell season, got really busy 2006 on. And so you're talking about 6 years, 7 years of just constant touring. And 6 years. And I just got kind of burnt out on it and just wanted to sort of take time and live in another city. And I took some time off touring, and Marketa had been living in an apartment in New York for the months previous to that. And she had decided to leave New York or move to Brooklyn. And her apartment was free and her lease wasn't up. And she said, do you want to take this over? And I was like, brilliant.
Yeah.
So I took over the lease on her flat. And before I knew it, I was living there and had no plans. I had said to my manager, please just give me 6 months. I mean, a year would be great, but give me 6 months where I can just,
Be.
yeah, because you know, you got to write songs too. You know, it's not just about going out and playing them. There has to be a period every couple of years where you do put everything down and, you know, let the imagination do what it does. And
Has the tank ever run dry?
no, thank God. No, it hasn't. I've never I mean, there are times when you pick up a guitar and nothing comes. There are times you're in the middle of something really important and you pick up your guitar and something comes in completion, except that you're about to go live on some other thing. You know,
Yeah.
so the muse doesn't make an appointment. It just shows up when it shows up. So, and the thing to trust is that it's in control, not you.
Yeah.
You don't. I've never understood people who say, I wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning, I put on the coffee, I sit down and I write songs. It just, I mean, I think if you do that, the possibility is something will come.
Yeah.
But whenever I've tried to do that, I've done the thing of renting a house in Kerry and going off and living on the side of a mountain for 2 weeks with just me and my guitar and a tape recorder and a couple of mics.
And is there a sense then that you sort of you avoid order in your life? Because I know that you could have done the Commitments again, and you could have done the Once musical, but maybe you didn't want to be tethered to the stage or committed to the stage.
Well, I mean, for the Once musical, they'd asked me and they'd asked Marketa to write, you know, 5 new songs. But that moment had passed for us.
Yeah.
That was lightning in a bottle for us at the time. It was like, we got together and it was like, what do you think of this? And it was like, John was like, we're shooting a scene at 7 in the morning and I need that idea that I liked, because we'd give John 4 or 5 little bits and he'd be
Sketches
like,
kind of thing,
that
yeah.
one,
Yeah.
that's the one I want. And then we had that evening to finish it. So there was something going on that was just like bam, 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 you know, it needs to get done. And when you listen to the One soundtrack, I mean, I'm very, very proud of it, but there's a lot of lyrics that just don't sound finished because they weren't.
Right.
You know, it was kind of sort of bolted together and sort of somehow works.
Well, nothing's ever finished really, it's just abandoned, isn't that the
That's they say, yeah, it's a good one. But the idea of going in then and being given time and money and space to write 5 new songs for that particular project just didn't, it was like, no, it's done. You know, it's done. And so I think I'd like to think that when I go to make a record, I'm making a record of, it's a recording, it's a document of all the things that came through me over the last year or two. It's not a document of this particular relationship I was in that I then picked apart and sat down and wrote. And
Yeah.
you know, I love the idea of the writer. I love the idea. I mean, I remember as a kid being obsessed with, how do you write? How do you sit down and write? And I had a friend who wrote, and he said, you just fucking write.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? Like, I thought there was some secret coming. I thought he was going to impart some great. And he's like, no, you sit down and you write, and then a lot of it is shit. And
Like I said, 90% of success is just showing up at the desk. You know, it's,
yeah, that's it.
On a more frivolous note, The Simpsons, you voiced and appeared in The Simpsons. So,
Yeah.
how was that? Was that were you a fan of the show?
Ah, of course. I mean, who
Yeah.
isn't? It was a huge.
Was
At that time,
was it bigger
though,
than the Oscar?
oh, I mean, it was. I mean, I think it is culturally, absolutely. I think the Oscars. I don't think anything's going to top that moment, in terms of just surprise and wonderment. The Oscars was the most kind of bizarre and, you know, something you absolutely did not set out for.
Yeah.
And then it sort of lands in front of you, and it was such an extraordinary success for John, for the film, for us as songwriters. It was just such an extraordinary thing. It was really difficult to be cynical about it, even though I tried.
Yeah.
You know, I did kind of reject it immediately afterwards. I was like, what does that mean? It's like, you know, what do awards mean? And of course you go through all this stuff and you tear yourself apart but actually, on reflection, it was a pretty amazing thing to happen.
Sure. Where is it at the moment? Does your mum still have it?
My mother
Yeah.
has it, yeah. The house got broke into actually a few months ago, and they took everything. It was a classic break-in. They took the telly.
Right.
You know.
Didn't take the Oscar.
They didn't take it. It was sitting by her bed, and they didn't take it.
Maybe that was a mark of respect, you know. It's like,
I
oh, they
kinda
can't
like to
take the
think-
man's Oscar, you know.
I'd like to think. Sorry, let me turn this off.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be lovely to think that they just sort of went, no, I'll leave that. Brilliant.
Did you get one each?
We got one each, yeah.
All right,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
The Frames, what's happening?
The Frames has kind of morphed into this other thing now. I mean, the Frames are on stage with me tonight.
I met Simon earlier.
Yeah. I never intended on the Frames becoming Glen Hansard. But you do have to follow the music. And in 2005, when John said, will you do this thing with me, and, you know, once, I kind of followed it. Even though it was kind of a hunch and sort of something that, you know, making music with Marketa was something I just did. I followed it because I was enjoying it. And that's where the music was fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to be honest with the lads, and I stayed in the band, and we carried on, and we made another record. But I think at that particular time, I was kind of moving away from the Frames. I was kind of, you know, because I was feeling more inspired in this other band. And then it kind of became the Swell Season. It became the Swell Season because I didn't really want to call it Glen Hansard, Marketa or Glow with the people from once. It just didn't feel. So the Swell Season was born, which was the Frames. And we made the record, but we made the record in Prague with Maria Tukanen and Bertrand Galland, two string players. And then when it came time to tour it, same at Rhythm and Repose, I made the record with other people. But when it came time to go on tour, I still can't think of anyone else I'd rather play music with on a stage than the people I've always played music with on a stage, the Frames. So where is the Frames at? It still exists. It's still a band. But they're the most patient and just the most patient people that I know. They've kind of let me go off on this whole thing, and they're like, yeah, cool. If you want a band to go tour with you, we'll do it. Maybe there's another Frames record in the pipeline, maybe there isn't. And my only response to it is whatever the songs dictate is what I'm gonna do with it.
Sure.
That's, you know, the fact that I'm still playing music with my best mates in the world would say to me that the Frames is not over.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm writing songs, and the songs might be concerned with other stuff, and I might want to record this song with that person. What one needs to always buy oneself in life is freedom to do whatever the fuck you want to do. That's, I'm sorry for the language.
Feel free.
Yeah. Whatever drives you is where you need to be.
Yeah.
And if you're honest with that, then your friends will understand. Even if you're leaving their band, they'll get it, because they're like, you know what, he's following what he's always followed.
Sure.
You know.
Look, just finally, you're playing with Springsteen on Saturday. So
Yeah.
how are you feeling about that?
I mean, I feel totally honoured. I mean,
You've played with Dylan before, haven't you?
yeah. I know, it's an amazing thing in this life that you make music, and of course you're emulating your heroes, and at some point you bump into them, and at some point you kind of have this, there's a moment where those worlds kind of pass each other, and the gravities of those worlds might influence the rest of your life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce is someone I've had the absolute joy and pleasure and honor of meeting and talking with, and as a human being, the most simple, straight ahead, normal, sharp, intelligent, articulate, easygoing. Like, he kind of defies all the stuff. If you spent any time around Dylan, you know, Dylan is the enigma within the enigma within. There's no way to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know. And with Bruce, unless he's just really, really, really clever, you know, he just is so natural.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, listen, best of luck with it.
Thanks.
Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to us, man.
Thank you. Thanks, Ola.
Hi guys, yeah, okay. Can you just check playback before we go? That was great, thanks a million. Great interview.
He's starting, but it's all good, the fucker.